Good afternoon, Mark. And obviously we've known each other for 14 years, but I think for anybody watching this, would you just briefly introduce yourself?
Yes, of course. My name's Mark Elliott, and I'm a founding member of the charity Help for Heroes, which is a military charity providing direct practical support for wounded, injured, and sick servicemen and women and their families.
Thanks, Mark. And when did you first become aware that Moto Foundation was running a shoot to raise funds for Help for Heroes?
I think, Guy, it was about 2011, 2012. In those days, it was fairly hectic. We had managed to get the word out about these heroes needing support. And wonderfully, Moto reached out to us and offered to run a shoot for us, which I think the first one was in 2012.
It was, yeah, that's right. And so in all, I think we held 10 shoots over the years that we had the partnership with Help for Heroes as Moto Foundation's national charity partner. And in that time, we raised nearly half a million, actually just over £500,000 through that event alone. How did the charity use the funds? I mean, I'm not forgetting that actually the half a million was part of 3.1 million, I think, that Moto Foundation gave you as a whole.
I think it's important to remember that people supporting the charity, any amount of money, let alone £500,000, can quite literally change lives. And in some case, guys, it saves lives. So the £500,000 Help for Heroes used, as I said at the start, to provide direct and practical support. And that's important. This was not money to tuck away in a bank. This was to act, as I call it, like a fire extinguisher. Where there was a fire for the boys and girls, Help for Heroes, with Moto's money, specifically with the shoot money, was able to put a fire out. So when one of the boys and girls needed help, we went, yes, we can give you help. And of course, it went towards developing the Hidden Wounds program, mental health. It went towards building recovery centres. So it touched a lot of areas, which was quite extraordinary and made a huge impact.
Yeah, and I was lucky enough to see some of the amazing work that you did at Tedworth House with some of the other trustees and people who'd helped with the shoot. Very, very moving, Mark. Very impressive.
It
You're,
always, just to add, it was
yeah,
always important to us, and with Moto's help, it was always important right from the first day that we believed the boys and girls and their family deserved the best. And of course, that needed money to provide the best. These heroes shouldn't have the second best, they should have the best. And we did that with the recovery centres and everything we did with the support of Moto and others.
yeah, and you could see and feel that at Tedworth House that day. Amazing. Your amazing co-founder, the late Bryn Parry, attended to support many of the moto shoots, as did you, Mark. You also sent teams of veterans that you refer to as blokes to compete and to be amazing, very moving guest speakers to support the day, for which we're incredibly grateful. What do you think they actually got out of attending the event themselves, Mark?
I think, if I may, just firstly, one on Bryn himself. I think there are moments in times in all our lives and across different periods of life where somebody steps up to do something quite extraordinary, a specific individual that leads the way. And there's no doubt that Bryn was one of those that made a call in mid 2007. And with a group of friends, we built Help for Heroes. But he inspired the British public. He inspired the boys and girls. And he was utterly dedicated, utterly passionate. And of course, above all, he loved his countryside and his shooting. But what did Moto Shoot, I guess, do for the boys and girls directly on the day? I think, Guy, for me, firstly, as you say, it's about the blokes. And when we said it's about the blokes, we meant the men, women, and the families of our armed forces. But initially, and you'll be surprised to hear this, it was simply about, for some, getting out into a public space, a safe environment. When I say safe environment, I'm not talking whether it's shotguns or fast cars or whatever. It's a psychological safe space, which you and the team that delivered the shoot days absolutely provided, and was so important to make the boys and girls feel comfortable and therefore able to interact with all those people on the day, telling their story and having the most wonderful day. And of course, recognizing that people do care. And that's so important. When you've been on operations, you come back and it stops very quickly, let alone if you've been wounded, sick and injured. But A, to get them in public, B, to recognise that people do care about them. And of course, the day itself raised thousands and thousands of pounds to provide support for those young men and women.
Thanks, Mark. I mean, you could see that. I do remember the feedback on the day from the guys who'd attended. You could see how happy they were and how pleased they were, but you could see that nervousness at the beginning of the day and that dissipate very quickly. Apart from, I think you've partly answered that in the previous question, but I think apart from the fundraising, what do you think that Help for Heroes got from their association with our shooting event?
Again, it's one of those things that I'm not sure you'll expect the answer. I think to create an event and a partnership that lasted a span of 10 years, you first, Guy, have to care. A lot of people, rightfully, during a couple of periods during the year, are aware of our armed forces. They're aware of the incredible work they do. But there are a group of individuals out there who care deeply about the young men and women of our armed forces and understand what they do. And of course, you and Moto were one of those people that cared. And that partnership between Help for Heroes, Moto, particularly you and the shoot, were two groups coming together that cared. And that was the most important thing, because if you both care, it's a very easy path to tread. But that, for me, was the reason, in the main, why it was so successful, apart from your wonderful organisational skills. But people cared.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah. Why, on a broader sort of note, why do you think shooting events work? And I think take it in different parts, this question. I think, why do you think shooting works as an event? And why do you think people want to be part of this event and then keep coming back year after year?
Well, there's two bits. Certainly, for the boys and girls, why they love coming. People may not realise, but if you join the military, presumably you like the outdoor life because you're going to spend a lot of time out of doors. So the link between the military, the countryside and shooting specifically is there for all to see. It's quite extraordinary. We love the outdoors. But of course, you've got to remember, for a lot of the boys and girls that came to your shoot, were either missing a leg or an arm, or some visually impaired, but they still love it. And what the shoot allowed them to do was carry on being outdoors with people that cared, doing some shooting and having a wonderful day. And that was so important.
Thanks, Mark. And then the last question, and it's always a difficult one, is what difference do you think my involvement made in making that event a success, Mark?
I think there's two things. Firstly, as I've talked about, you care about the subject matter. You care about the shoot. You certainly cared and continue to care about Help for Heroes. But that aside, that only becomes really successfully on a financial front is if somebody does the organising. The skill to organising a shoot day and make it enjoyable is extraordinary. I talk about the foundations of the day being a cake, and the charity partner, in our case for 10 years, is the icing on that cake. I don't believe that, the participants would have flooded back as they did every single year if it wasn't fundamentally a well-organised, fun, great day. Help for Heroes added the icing to that cake. But what you and the team are able to deliver is exceptional organisation, seamlessly, and a great fun day. Now, I know a lot goes on behind the scenes. I've done a few of these things, but your ability and your team's ability to deliver a wonderfully organised, superbly relaxed, safe environment is a unique skill.
Thank you, Mark. Really appreciate the feedback. And thank you very much for giving your time today. Really appreciate it. It's always a pleasure to chat to you. Thank you very much, Mark.
No problem at all, Guy. Absolute pleasure.